Yeah, my name is Marco Dorn. I will use the next 45 minutes to talk about SAP LeanIX. Start from the basics. What can you do with a product? Like what's the target audience? But then pretty quickly get into the topic of how to make use of it as quickly as possible. I mean, it's for enterprise architects, the product, like as far as software inventory. So how can you pre-fill this with a trusted inventory? Because only if you can fill this automatically, keep it up to date, it's really beneficial for you. And this is what I'm going to talk about. So the other session before from Kevin was about like custom integrations, how to get custom data automatically pushed inside or into SAP LeanIX and the inventory. I will look into, okay, how can you use trusted sources in your SAP or not SAP landscape? Both are possible to push data in there. So I'm a product manager for LeanIX based here in Munich. LeanIX was acquired by SAP around about 2 years ago. And ever since the journey started to automatically replicate your SAP landscape in LeanIX automatically, but in parallel as well with other things. I mean, there is a world outside of SAP, I heard. So there's software used outside besides SAP software. So we try to as well automatically discover this, push this to the software inventory so that you can keep up with that. I will talk about as well the roadmap. That's why I have to show the disclaimer. The third chapter will be about that. So you will clearly see what's in the plan. I'll show a quick peek into what we are about to launch from my team, which is then the Cloud Foundry part. But first, let me start with the beginning on what is SAP LeanIX, what do you do with that? And then as well, it fits into the picture why SAP actually did the acquisition 2 years ago with the whole transformation, the ERP transformation, which is going on in so many companies. So the short slogan, and as Kevin said, it's hardly used anymore. It's like the Google Maps of software. So it's all about getting away from not knowing what software is used in all the different corners of a company. And well, yeah, this can easily happen. Or maybe there's an Excel file on somebody's computer with some responsibilities and it outdates as soon as it's updated the last time. So it's all about addressing that problem of, well, what do I actually have as software in my company? Who's responsible for that? In which areas? May this be regionally? May this be from the line of business? Where do I use which piece of software? But then as well, trying to get from A to B. I mean, yeah, well, it's the SAP community meetup. So doing the ERP transformation, getting from ERP on-prem, well, to S4HANA or to S4HANA in the cloud. I don't want to go into that detail and to that rabbit hole, but doesn't matter. But transforming from A to B, replacing custom code, replacing maybe partner add-ons, or getting to newer versions of that partner add-on, you want to plan this somewhere centrally. Plus all the other software which is used. This can get from like Microsoft Office down to, I don't know, things like Workday or so, which are used somewhere, or you do an acquisition. And then they, for example, like your main software SuccessFactors, the new acquisition uses Workday. You want to plan getting away, like migrating from Workday to, for example, SuccessFactors. This is what you then try, or that's what you model in LeanIX to then have a clear path for transformation. So you can model not only like what software do I use, you can model information like what components is it made of. I don't know, we just had the talk next door. Let's say you have a custom extension that you built and it's based on the Neo platform from SAP. Neo platform, and I forgot the exact end of life date, but that's public information. It goes soon out of maintenance. So you want to replace that customization by something else. So you can see the underlying IT component, which would be the Neo platform, has an end of life date. So, well, which applications of you in your IT landscape are impacted like that, by that? So this is what you can easily then see inside LeanIX and then plan the transformation saying, okay, I want to replace it by standard software. I want to replace it by a new customization, which is a development project in itself. And then get from A to B, and as well as see which of the paths here now highlighted with a number 2 is the best one, the cheapest one, fastest one, less risky, depends on, of course, what you prefer or whatever the situation is, but you can plan then clearly and transparently getting from A to B in the best way for your company. And the idea is to make this transparent. So by default, for example, everybody can access the LeanIX workspace of a company, like inside that company, obviously. But for example, I can access the production environment of LeanIX, which our enterprise architects at SAP use, where they model which software SAP as a whole uses. It's only read access, but the idea is that this is as well kind of a yellow pages of the software. If I wonder, I don't know, I evaluate some software for a certain use case in my domain at LeanIX, now that I'm part of LeanIX, let's say, I can look up if somebody else in the company somewhere around the world already uses that piece of software and ask, like, I don't know, sharing the licenses or whatsoever. Or I can see who is responsible for a certain software. If I'm in the central team and it's decided that it goes end of life, then I know whom to reach out to. Plus, I can subscribe to, I don't know, there's a certain software, 1Password as an example, as an app, and it's I can subscribe to updates to that information, to that piece of software. So if somebody decides somewhere, I mean, 100,000 employees at SAP, somebody centrally decides, okay, let's retire 1Password. If we were using it, I get notified. So it's all about making this transparent, plus distributing the updates of this IT landscape. So maybe I am the owner, like the business owner, of sticking to that to 1Password. So in a regular basis, which can be configured by the central enterprise architects, I can get asked, okay, please give me an update. Is this still in use? Is it still covering the business needs? What are the costs and so on? So I get an automated survey because the kind of the expiry date of that information was reached. I can then provide the information. It's centrally pushed into LeanIX, and it's valid for another, I think by default it's 6 months, but doesn't matter. It's customizable. So then after 6 months, I get yet another email saying, please update this information again. So it should distribute the work of keeping the software inventory up to date. So the goal is really to plan your as-is state and as well plan the transformation to get to the to-be. So for example, planning information, getting reports then and diagrams with regards to, okay, what parts of my application portfolio can I migrate to the cloud? And as well in which time frame? Or which technologies are outdated? I mean, there are ways of, on the one hand, as I said, getting this info or putting the information in on IT components get out of maintenance. Or on top of that, there are catalogs inside LeanIX where this information is automatically updated, especially now as they are part of the SAP family. The information, the product information, the lifecycle information of certain, like of releases, of versions, but as well overall of services is maintained automatically inside LeanIX in the backend, so that if you have an application and it's using, let's stick to Neo because that's the most obvious example, it's based on Neo and it goes out of end of life, that you can see it inside LeanIX automatically in the reports. You can get notified which business domain, for example, gets impacted by that. Because you assigned the piece of software to finance payroll, all right, then you know payroll or only payroll in Americas or whatsoever is getting impacted by an end of life. Well, one famous example is actually you can even push information in from a software bill of material. So what libraries do I actually use in my very own software which I develop? LeanIX does that as well on their own. And back at, what was it, 23, Log4j, like the security incident just shortly around Christmas, they could get in, see, okay, IT component, this library, where is it used, in which application, which teams and business owners need to be notified to take action. So they had immediate transparency with regards to where are they impacted. So these are kind of the use cases of LeanIX. And then you can plan the modernization, for example, where do I want to get in 5 years? What do I want to replace? Where do I want to get from A to B? So just to start off, quickly, just again to show this to you so that it becomes more tangible. All these different components are modeled in so-called fact sheets. Well, as the name pretty much says, it's a page like with a different, very many different details that can be maintained. The main part is really the application. So this is as well the recommendation where to start with. I model my applications that I use as a company. And then I can go into a much more level of detail, whatever I want. But if you start like with your journey from LeanIX, it's really starting with an application and then maybe start by saying, okay, which IT components is this based on? But again, you can go into many more details. Which business areas, business capabilities is this about? Which part of the organization is this related to? So, I mean, you can have a lot of fun in modeling your IT landscape in there. Or, of course, again, like making it as automated as possible. And there's a recommendation how these things relate. But you can always deviate as well from the standard. You can configure this meta model on your own. You can change attributes, you can change validity, you can change relations, you can introduce your own. This is just the meta model, which is recommended by LeanIX. So if I go in here, so this is the entry page, so the dashboard once I log on to LeanIX. And here is this inventory. And of course, this is a lot of demo data in the first demo. So for example, if I go down and I go to applications, and let's say I just pick Adobe Creative Suite, Creative Cloud. So you can see, I mean, okay, Adobe Creative Cloud, you can have lifecycle information. When do you plan to introduce it? When is it active? Then maybe you say, well, I want to phase it out. I don't want to use it anymore. So this phase starts at some point in time, and then end of April 28, I want to get rid of Adobe Creative Cloud for whatever reasons. Again, demo data. So this is what you can model in here. You can provide this information, or the business owner can provide this information. And then centrally, you can generate, like, again, you get reports, you get diagrams on where is this impacting your actual business. You can relate this, again, can go into a lot of detail. Okay, what platform is this based on? Which parts of the organization are using it? What IT components is this based on, and like go again into each fact sheet of all those pieces with different attributes to the level of complexity or to the level of detail, whatever suits your company. And with that, if I just go, for example, into like just some dashboard, which was created here for the demo purposes for application portfolio management, you can then say, well, how, for example, get a summary on, okay, how many applications, like what applications do I use? How critical are they for my business? And in which areas, in which business capabilities do they actually appear? Like where are they used? And again, I mean, you can go wild here with the reporting and on the dependencies. What did I? Okay. Okay. And I mean, if you model integrations, again, you can go into spider web and see who's integrated with what. And again, HANA can have a lot of fun with regards to going into details. But now, of course, if you start from scratch, I mean, you wonder, well, how do I now maintain this? I mean, you don't want to have demo data in there. You want to have your real life data from your company inside the product. And I mean, where to start? I mean, starting with a white sheet of paper is always hard. So there are automated ways of filling that inventory based on different capabilities, different sources, because everything, when you want to transform or when you want to analyze, when you want to get rid of duplicates and save money, I mean, it all starts at the bottom here, bottom left, with discovery. You start by discovering as much as possible. Then you can start analyzing, design your to-be like your to-be landscape, implement this, operate it, and again, continue the discovery on a permanent basis so that you stay up to date with regards to what's there in your company. If you, again, dive into, okay, what's available in your SAP landscape, well, again, you want to use the sources which already exist here from SAP to automatically fill that inventory. I mean, you have, you might have like some on-premise solutions, you might have cloud solutions, you might have your own extensions on BTP or non-BTP. Somewhere, I don't know how much transparency you have with you in your company or with your clients, but you want to get this in order, of course. What do you use from SAP as standard software? Where do you have extensions? Maybe even to the extent on how are they connected? How do they relate? How do they talk to each other? What do you have on-premise? And again, like from SAP, from the software catalog within LeanIX, what's their lifecycle data, if there is any, maybe as well, even on a release date or an enhancement package level, okay, when is what are going out of maintenance so that you need to upgrade and plan for this. But again, it's not only for SAP. Of course, there's a big focus on it, well, as they're part of the family, and that's your expectation, right? You see a SAP landscape automatically as much as possible in an SAP product. So the way this works is via an integration to Cloud RLM, for example. Then all the information about applications that you subscribe to or that you license from SAP will appear. On-premise information in Cloud RLM is, of course, then manual maintenance, but still it gets synchronized into LeanIX. And with regards to custom extensions, we launched the synchronization to SAP Build. In Build, you've got model processes, you can have apps, you can have SAP Build code for custom like pro code applications soon as well. I mean, or it's already out for AI features, Joule Studio, and there's more to come there as well. But this can get synchronized into LeanIX, and then you can decide, okay, which applications are so relevant to me, particularly if you use them in production, that you take them over into your inventory. So there's an inbox concept. Then you can say, okay, well, this is important. I don't know, this is a development system. I don't want to maintain it in LeanIX. I don't need to go into that level of detail for a dev system, and so on and so forth. But again, there's a world outside of these walls here, I know. So there are more out-of-the-box integrations. So for example, to Entra ID or to Okta, for single sign-on solutions, so you can create trust between LeanIX workspace and Entra ID, and then whatever is configured in Entra ID is suggested as well. Probably this is software that you use in your company. Same goes for like Microsoft Defender or Zscaler and so on. So for security tooling, or SAP WalkMe as one of the acquisitions, I think from last year or 1.5 years ago. So like a built-in education tooling. So trying to say, well, if you connected those solutions with business applications, probably you use them in your company. But then as well, like configuration management databases, either custom ones or like ServiceNow. A lot of companies, and Kevin was saying this in the other room, many customers or most of his customers from professional services that he got to know, they do connect to ServiceNow, keep it in sync. I spoke to customers as well that have ServiceNow as the leading system, and this is the only single source of truth, and then it gets mapped into LeanIX. Then, of course, it gets harder with regard to Cloud RLM, but I mean, that's the company's decision on how to do it, but it's possible to say, keep in sync or push it from A to B or from B to A, whoever is then the leading system. Plus, the discoveries with regards to self-built software. So going into the technology stack. So we use it as well, for example, for my development team, not only mine, but all at LeanIX, as I was saying. So the code is on GitHub. This is integrated to LeanIX, which means the application or the microservices that my team is building show up in LeanIX in our internal tenant. We like that way. There's a way to then say, okay, this is the team which is working on it. So we don't need to maintain it. We only need to maintain it once in GitHub, where my developers are anyway living. Plus, in the whole pipelining process, there's a software bill of material generated with all the components, all the open source libraries, and so on, which are being used inside the software that my team is building. And we push this to LeanIX. And whenever there's a new build process triggered, this gets updated and again pushed to LeanIX. So if we introduce, like if we use a new component, it's made transparent inside LeanIX as well. So again, this helps a lot when it comes to, well, there's a library going out, like there's a security thing, like it goes through the news. We can check out, or somebody centrally at LeanIX could check, okay, where in the product is this used, and call those folks up. Because actually you can as well navigate them back, and I will show this in the next demo, go back from IT component up to, okay, which applications are using it. So this tree that I was showing from application to platform or from application to IT component, then of course can continue until infinity from IT component back to application and so on. And this is how then, I mean, again, this is a nice way then of creating transparency very quickly. And the idea is to avoid any double maintenance with regards to, well, I maintain it now in Cloud RLM, and then I have to do it again in LeanIX, but keep this in sync. So if I go again back to the demo, actually to the other space. So this one is second demo space, which we are preparing as well for TechEd, which is coming up beginning of November. So here I'm logged out. Great stuff. Here we go. No, I don't want to save this password. So we did set up some integration. So if I go to, just to show you where to find this in the administration area, in integrations, here we go. So here you can see then the different integrations which have been set up for this tenant and see their status. So from the inventory, I can jump to this inbox. So for example, for SAP Landscape Discovery, I can see whatever has been discovered inside Cloud RLM, and then see the system details like the system name, the system role, and so on. I can see what is this, like what version is this based on. So this is the standard component, the IT component, and where you can then see, okay, there's lifecycle information maintained on this. And there's something new which was recently introduced, so system fact sheet, which is the representation of, okay, this is my production system, just to abstract a bit away that there's a database, there's a server behind and so on. So this like different layers that one SAP system has to combine it into, okay, this is my production system, this is my test system, this is my dev system, for example. But for the application, so this is an actual business application which I use, for example, I don't know, for online commerce in North America or whatsoever. This is then the actual application which I would maintain where I have a business owner and so on. And then I can decide, okay, I want to push this into my inventory. So this is the kind of staging area. Because it's still an inbox, it's not yet in my inventory, I don't maintain yet the owner and so on and so forth. I can decide, okay, which ones do I want to have? Again, I can go into a lot of detail here. I can then say as well, no, show me only my extensions on the BTP. So again, right now, this is all only based on SAP Build. More to come here as well, and I will give a short sneak peek into that in a second too. But I can, again, then decide, okay, what is so important, like which is, for example, in this case, process automation inside Build, which process is so relevant for me in the production space that I want to automatically link this or have this in my inventory and maintain ownership and so on and so forth. Or if I still have like processes based on IRPA, which is going to be replaced by process automation, I can then plan a transformation from IRPA. Unfortunately, that I have to maintain at this day manually, but then I can say, but I have already the process being modeled in process automation, so that's the go-to process, and then plan this execution, or the initiative, it's called, the project to migrate there. And furthermore, it's not only about SAP, but as well, like if I have solutions connected or where trust is created with regards towards Microsoft Entra ID, I can have those applications showing up here as well, and then say, yes, I want to push this as well to my inventory to model it as well as an application because it's not coming from Cloud RLM, for example. And then again, afterwards, I can continue with the management here. As like any other application. So if I just go down to, where is that here? For example, again, this being like one project from SAP Build, I can then say, yes, I want to have, I don't know, it's based on, in this case, it's based on SAP Build Process Automation. I can see what other applications, in this case, none, but anyway, what other applications would be based on process automation. So navigate through my landscape here with this tree visualization, plus maintain ownership and so on and so forth to this build process. So that way, like with these out-of-the-box integration, we want to provide like a trusted inventory as fast as possible, so that you don't need to fill it instantly, like from the beginning, with a like empty sheet, but you can push information from your SAP landscape from a different other source already automatically in there, and then start assigning owners, informing them, and so on. And again, continue the journey with regards to modeling the landscape, whatever makes sense. Okay, but that's of course not the end of the story, because I mean, there's still information which we will or which we plan to fetch automatically and then push into the LeanIX workspace automatically from the SAP world, but as well from the non-SAP world. So that's now what the disclaimer was for, so to say, getting into rather the roadmap or the outlook on where we want to go. Starting from the top left, I mean, what's on the short-term roadmap is to fetch information about your custom deployments on Cloud Foundry. So how many of you do use Cloud Foundry to for any applications? Okay, kind of half. All right. So what we plan to do, and I will again give the sneak peek at the end. So what we plan to do is get the information about deployments in Cloud Foundry on BTP, how they relate to BTP services, which BTP services they use, so that you can add them as well to your inventory, because many customers use it, and it's in many cases well business critical. We have on the roadmap, we plan to as well work on interface discovery, because in Cloud ALM, in the integration suite, and as well in API-IPO, I mean, you model the integration between the solutions. So there's a discovery going on these days on, okay, what could be done there automatically? How can we fetch information from, for example, like Cloud ALM, if there's an integration flow maintained or monitored inside Cloud ALM? How can we fetch that information automatically? And then map it inside LeanIX? Because if I go back to the meta model, you can see there's something called an interface fact sheet, which models the relationship between applications. Oh, interesting. Need to get out of the presentation mode. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Thank you. So there's something called an interface fact sheet, which is, well, what the name says, to model interfaces between solutions. We are currently evaluating and discovering how can this then be fetched automatically and then suggested as well. Like if we get the SAP solutions, even the extensions, I mean, what can we then suggest automatically? Because that makes your life easier as well, because then again, you can directly model the relationship between those. What's as well on the roadmap is the discovery, how can we integrate the BTP subscription, like your BTP global account model, inside LeanIX automatically. And again, if you looked into, for example, the SAP build, it's already, well, actually, it's better visualized in the inbox. Let me quickly go in there. If I go to a build project, and build is always part of a global account and a sub account. So there is a suggestion already saying, okay, well, it's based on the platform, business technology platform, oh well. But as a next step, this is the global account name, and then this is the sub account name. So these three layers we are already getting for build projects. For Cloud Foundry projects or deployments, we're of course getting the same information, but with the roadmap item here, with the BTP subscription discovery, right now, what the team is looking at is, okay, how to fetch this for the whole global account so that you can have your production global account, for example, the structure at least as so-called platform fact sheets modeled. And the colleagues are as well discovering or like talking to customers what other information are expected in there, like the service instances, environments like Cloud Foundry and so forth, and so on and so forth. So again, this is currently going on with regards to the discovery to then push this information for the global account that you want to get involved here or modeled inside LeanIX. Next to, I mean, Cloud Foundry for my team is just the beginning, the discovery of Cloud Foundry applications. Well, there are other runtimes next to Cloud Foundry. There's the Kima runtime, so the Kubernetes runtime inside BTP. Its story is very similar, of course, to Cloud Foundry with regards to, okay, I don't have an org, I've got a cluster, I don't have spaces, I've got namespaces and so on, but very similar. So we want to complete that story, or we want to complete that story as well in the future. And then we are working as well on a concept for the ABAP runtime in the cloud. So to have everything on BTP ready. But of course, I know that not everybody's using everything on BTP for your extensions. There are still extensions or customizations in the on-prem core. I put this here in brackets not because well, I put it in brackets because it's a so-called voting item on the roadmap of LeanIX. So customers can find it there, customers and partners can find it there and say, yes, I would need this as well. So the rough idea here is, okay, what information can I get inside my LeanIX workspace on custom code, custom objects, modifications to the standard, and how can this be pushed into LeanIX? And this is my topic, so I'm currently in the discovery phase. What information sources do exist? How can this be grouped? Because it doesn't help if we push, I've got 3,000 deviations from the standard. I'll push that all to LeanIX. That doesn't help anybody. So what can be done? How can information be aggregated? How can it be assigned automatically to a line of business? Rated with regards to this can easily be migrated, this not. So this is currently going on, but it's still on a very, very rough idea, so to say. And I'm in the discovery phase there as well. Open for feedback, happy to discuss this as well on a continuous basis and validate as well concepts which are coming up. Plus, on the non-SAP world, we next to GitHub, the team is looking for input with regards to what other code repositories to or code management platforms to connect to, and as well go deeper into the whole technology tech stack discovery with versioning and so on, what to do there in that regards. And some more wild ideas with regards to, it's called detective mode for things which are not yet there. So you can read more. I mean, all the links, I guess the slides are shared later on. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'll send it over. So it's all linking to the public roadmap. So you can, and the nice part here is for the LeanIX roadmap, you can see the item, you can vote for it, and you can comment on it. And I, as a product manager, for example, for my roadmap items, I can then see your feedback and as well reach out to you. So if you're interested, if one of those things on here, or of course any other on the roadmap, catches your interest and you say, yes, you have feedback, you would like to talk about it, or you would provide feedback in the comment field there, I mean, we are like very happy to get that input through these channels as well. Plus, before I go into the final demo, one very important topic which was announced at SAP Sapphire this year and was announced for TechEd this year. So beginning of November is something called the AI Agent Hub. Of course, no presentation without AI, right? The idea here is, and it's only 4 weeks out in the future, but still, so the idea here is to have, again, automatic discovery options for AI agents, which are being used in the company from different sources. I mean, from SAP on the one hand, but then as well from the hyperscalers on the other, plus individual agents which run outside of the standard out-of-the-box integrations, which we work on to provide, like the link to the agent card, for example. POCs going on with regards to, okay, what about MCP servers? How could this be information be included? To then as well, like not only have one repository of the used AI agents, but as well in which areas would they be used? What was maybe a recommendation for future agents and so on. So that's again planned as well for the near future to start with a repository of those, include them all in the reporting, in the dashboards and so on and so forth, but to create transparency about that as well. Okay, so then to as well suit my session title, right? Including Cloud Foundry. So unfortunately, I can't tell you, yes, this is live. So we did not make it for today, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So what do we want to do with Cloud Foundry? I mean, many customers, many partners use Cloud Foundry as a deployment, as the runtime inside BTP. So what is that all about? So in my global account, in my sub account, I've got my Cloud Foundry environment. The separation is done in so-called spaces. And inside the spaces, I've got like applications deployed. Again, for many of you, no news. And then each application can be bound to BTP services, to any of those services that SAP provides. Credentials are injected. You can easily use them and then use this in the development space, push it over to testing and then to production to use it really in production scenarios. And these are important pieces of information, especially when you get to a clean core, when you get the customization out of your core. So what we do is, or what we're working on, and this is, you can see it's my team Zenit, so my development team's test space. So what we work on is that you can provide access to a technical user, so to a platform user, into the spaces which we should be able to crawl from within LeanIX. And then afterwards, there's again in the SAP inventory, there will be then, for example, for a Python app, for a single Python app, we can fetch the name, we can get the information, I mean, space name and so on and so forth, which, okay, now there's no service binding here, but oh well, it's based on Cloud Foundry, which build pack is being used, plus, and now let me use a better example actually. So for example, the My HANA app, it's bound to different services so that we read those service bindings and recommend this as an IT component because it's a standard piece of software. And then as well, in which sub-account is this living and so on and so forth. And feedback was as well put in the build pack information so that for example, all applications based on Node.js build pack 1838 will be grouped kind of or linked to this same fact sheet of that build pack. So if at some point this build pack goes out of maintenance from the open source community, or like any Node.js version which was supported by this build pack is end of life, then you know which applications still need to migrate to the latest build pack. Plus, and this is nothing you can see here in the UI of the BTP, but those, for example, are grouped as with the multi-target application. So there's one MTA file to deploy those 3 applications. It's and again, this did not make it yet to this work to this instance, but the plan is to automatically fetch this information as well, so that they are grouped together. So if you deploy stuff with one MTA, then this is reflected immediately here as well, so that the MTA, which is kind of in the end, an empty shell, I know, but still it has no code in itself, but it's somehow a logical grouping. Probably this is actually the business content, the relevant application. So this is represented here. It has then 3 children, which is the actual application in Cloud Foundry. There sometimes is no binding to a certain, like for services to a certain application. So this should be reflected here as well. Plus you can then go into the platform and see which sub-account is this living in. So this is again, hot off the press, so to say. So the latest development. So this is the current development state. Again, rough around the edges still, but we're getting there of making this available hopefully soon. And the nice part is, again, with this technical user or with this platform user, sorry. So with the platform user, with one platform user, which is added to any space which is relevant to crawl, it's easy then for us to say, well, we get the username, we get a certificate and password for that user, and then we list all the spaces that you add this user to and list all the applications and so on. So it's not each space has to be added, but really one technical user, tell us where to look, like which Cloud Foundry API servers, and then we go and find all the applications. Yes, 1 second, because that's anyway the last part. Yeah, anyway, so this was the lab preview, again, to repeat. It's not yet there. We're getting there. It's close. I would have loved to say, hey, it's now there. No, not yet. But anyway, it's soon. We're going to have this as well. All right. Now, I think, yeah, still 5 minutes for questions. Yeah.
2 questions? I have 2 questions. The first one is, how about multi-tenant application from a partner? Very important, critical, but it's in another sub-account. Do you have auto discovery also for this? And the second question is, how about Realtech auto discovery for SAP or the Realtech CMDB? Do you have a connector?
Starting from the last one, so as far as I know, and I would need to look up the help documentation to make sure, but as I have not heard about the Realtech CMDB, but there are ways of connecting custom CMDBs, so next to ServiceNow. It's not my domain, to be honest, so I can look it up in the help documentation. But again, like as far as I know, no out-of-the-box integration to the Realtech CMDB. With regards to multi-tenant applications, this is so these would be applications in the customer's BTP Global sub-account. I mean, the tenant would show up No, actually, no. The partner has the provider global account and the provider sub account, and then the subscriptions happens in a separate sub account. So right now there is no concept, as far as I know, how to fetch that information, because we would need read access to that sub account and show this only like for the particular customer. So if you have a subscriber sub account for one of your customers, for example, then we would need to show this only in the workspace of that customer, in the LeanIX workspace of your customer. Yeah, unless you want to have transparency across your global account, your provider global account with all the subscriber sub accounts. But then this is only for you as a partner company when you use LeanIX to model your landscape. But besides that, I don't see a way, unless I don't know if a partner application shows up, for example, in Cloud RLM. I doubt it, because otherwise it would be synchronized. But yeah, I mean, but there's no concept at this point unless this is manually added actually by the customer.